And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Just a little bit still frustrated with 4 games in a row. Freaking Mets better snap this losing streak right now.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. The Mets definitely are, not in a good way right now. As you know, we'll get into that in a second. Obviously, the Mets have been crapping out. The Yankees have been getting better. They've been doing much better of late, aside from slipping up on Monday night in a blowout loss to a team that is on a historical mark right now. Is they're on track to at least contend for the Mets 1962 record losses of 120. So, we'll have to keep an eye on them and see how that goes down the stretch here. But they gave the Yankees hell on Monday, and but the Yankees rebounded last night. We'll get into that in a little bit too. But before we get into everything today, Dan, I do want to ask you. I know you were on a little family road trip over the weekend, going to Cleveland. We're gonna have I'm sure by the time this is out, actually, we'll have already released a little video that you've got of your time there. But how was your trip over there?
It was great. It was just a little thing. My sister rented a car because my mom my mom wanted to visit a friend of hers in Ohio, so I tagged along on a trip. Mr. Malone again. But while I was there, I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I also went to the Football Hall of Fame. As you can see, I'm wearing this hat here that has I don't know if you can see you can see it here. This hat that has this little Football Hall of Fame patch. I bought here this Giants
Very
hat. I
nice.
bought here with the Football Hall of Fame patch, and you see this shirt here. You probably saw the picture on my Twitter when I posted the picture of the back of the shirt has the names of all the Giants players that were that are inducted into the Hall of Fame on the back of this shirt. I bought this at the Football Hall of Fame, and I even got two little gifts for you. I got the Jets version of the shirt for you, and I got you the similar, just like the shot glass that you saw. You probably saw a picture of on my Twitter that had the Giants logo and the Hall of Fame logo on the back. I got you the Jets version of it also. So you got two nice little gifts from the Football Hall of Fame, and I can tell you, I definitely recommend going to see that museum. That museum.
Oh wow, we lost Dan there. I guess he dropped off. So he's right back here. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the presentation of the museum overall, like the moment you hit the front of that building, like the moment you walk out of your car and you're right in front of the steps of the entrance to that building, you hear this music that sounds like with those NFL highlight films, like that just really builds the anticipation as you're walking into that building and you're seeing this incredible exhibit of the timeline and stuff, the evolution of pro football, all the different memorabilia from throughout the years, even some little aspects of how like little things in football work, and you even get to see an exhibit dedicated to pro football today. There's a wing dedicated to the history of the Super Bowl. There, and of course, you got the room where we got all the Hall of Fame, a bunch of all the Hall of Famers, and
Hey Dan,
you got
your audio seems to be going in and out a little bit. See if you can louden it up on the mic a little bit there.
all right, can you hear me a little bit better?
Kind of sounds the same.
A little bit. Hold on. How's my voice right now?
That sounds much better actually. A lot less feedback.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is that you get to the room where the Hall of Fame busts are, and it just really just echoes like the just the pres that you're in the presence of greatness. And then there's even a wing dedicated to the history of the Super Bowl. There's a wing dedicated to the NFL today. There's also a little there's also this really cool little thing where this one's a little bit hard. I didn't video it or take photos of it. I mean, I didn't take pictures of everything I saw in that museum. Otherwise, it would have taken a long time to take pictures of the entire museum. But I saw the entire museum. But what I was going to say is that there's this one of the little films that you see is just like this. You go into this room that looks like a football locker room. You see some lockers, some Hall of Fame, some Hall of Famers, and you see this hologram show or something like that. You see like an introduction by Joe Namath, the hologram of Namath, talk, and it's this thing called Game for Life about where a couple of football Hall of Famers tell the story of how their lives have been impacted by football and the adversity they went through in their lives, and it was a brilliant presentation, and it ends with like a hologram of Vince Lombardi, and it's just incredible. And then of course at the exhibit where you see like the NFL today, you see this highlight film of this like big real highlight reel of 2025 of the previous season, like a little short little reel highlight reel of the 2020 of the most recent season. So unfortunately, just when I thought I couldn't get away from having to see an image of Taylor Swift, it had to be a highlight reel of the 2023 season, what was being shown in this section that was like the theater, this blue film. And I said, yeah, but still, it was an epic film. The whole big screen and everything, getting to see it. But overall, the museum's got a great presentation. You even saw that little picture that display they had of like the football cards of every Hall of Famer. And there's even a little exhibit about the Madden NFL. Like they have a display of like every. Oh, well, they need to update the exhibit because they're missing the last couple of versions of Madden in that display. But almost every version of Madden football is on display. Doesn't that feel weird seeing all the Madden games on display in a museum?
It is pretty crazy, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but it has become a part of pro football.
It is, and it's a key thing. You're right. Everybody waits for Madden to come out. Everybody loves who is on the cover of Madden. So it's definitely a key thing today going on in the NFL and in NFL culture. And that's awesome, Dan. I'm glad you had a great time there. And I'll definitely be putting out that video, within the next 24 hours or so. And that'll be up on our Patreon first, and then we'll make it public on the YouTube as well. So if you want to get in on that, that's just $5 at Best Seat in the House podcast on Patreon, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. That's and there's of course also that museum. There was stuff in the history of pro football I never even realized. There's stuff you find out you never even learned, like how the NFL just started from a guy who was running an auto showroom.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that on our Patreon show the other day too. So yeah, that is very funny. Definitely very informative. That's one of the actually the only Hall of Fame I visited is baseball. I visited many times, but yeah, definitely have to get over to Canton, Ohio too to check that out. And Dan, other than that, actually, what would you rate better? You've been to both the baseball or the football Hall of Fame. What would you rate as the better Hall of Fame?
Well, I haven't been to baseball yet.
You haven't been to Cooperstown yet?
No, I haven't been yet.
I'm shocked by that, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, it is kind of tough to get up there, but I'm very surprised. I thought that you would have went out of your way to get up there at some point.
I've never been there yet because no one I know really has a car, because it's like you need a car to get out there and stuff. So it's like
That's
a challenge
true.
to get there.
You know what? I'm telling you, I go up there with my family, with my uncle at least, once every other year, something like that. We usually like to get up there. And I'm telling you, the next time we'll definitely have to include you on that trip because Baseball Hall of Fame is great. And as a big of a baseball fan as you are, there's no way that that you wouldn't absolutely love the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yep, exactly. I know. I have a feel they'll probably enjoy it. I've heard many things from people that have gone, and I'm hoping one of these days I can finally be able to add my name on the list to have been there. That have been there.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about that. Maybe we'll have to make a best seat in the house podcast trip out of it or something like that.
Yep, yep, exactly.
See if we could do a show live from the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yep, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh man, that would be a dream. But you know what? Hey, let's get into some baseball right now as we kick the show off. And man, it's been a rough go of it. You know, when we opened up, we were talking about how the Mets have been struggling, and that is definitely true. The Mets got swept by Seattle, and you know, look, there's never a good time in the season to get swept by anybody. Never. I mean, it always hurts. It always feels like you're taking one on the chin because you are. But I could sit here and rationalize away that 3-game sweep. It was the last 3 games of a long road trip. The Mets offense hasn't been doing great since the All-Star break in the first place. And then you go up against the Seattle Mariners pitching staff, which is probably the best pitching staff in baseball. And to me, very reminiscent of that mid 2010s, you know, the 2015 or so Mets starting rotation with just a bunch of young guns out there where you're basically facing a guy that could be an ace every night. That's what the Mariners pitching staff is. And the Mets ran into a bunch of great young arms and couldn't beat them. You know, you could rationalize that. What you can't rationalize is them coming back. You know, granted they had a day off and, you know, now they're back home, but they had a chance to get back on the right foot at home, and instead they came out and got blown out in a 9-4 loss. You know, I know Paul Blackburn didn't have a great game. I don't want to put it all on him. I think the manager also probably left him out there a little too long. But you know, Dan, what do you think about that? The struggles in Seattle, and then coming home and not even being able to get on the right foot, you know, against a very bad A's team.
I was just completely disappointed. I was really upset, and I just I don't know what to make of that. I just know that that third inning just killed us, and we gotta win the next 2 games. There's no excuses about it. We gotta end this. We gotta complete the series, taking 2 out of 3. The only thing I can say about this, we gotta break the losing streak. That's just the kind of thing that really does you in if you go on too long of a losing streak.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's true. I mean, they need to get them, especially at home. You know, you can understand having a crappy road trip when it's out west and you started off pretty good, but ran into, you know, troubles at the end. You can understand that. What you can't understand is coming home and crapping out there. Now, okay, look, I'm willing to give them, maybe they needed a day to get back together, so they lost that first one to the A's. But you got to win the series now. So you got to win tonight and you got to win on Thursday afternoon when they play. And you know, the fact is, right now, when you go back, if you look at it, so they had a 4-6 road trip, come back and lost. Now the Mets officially lost 7 of their last 10. That's an extended period of time where this team is just not getting it done, and they're lucky that a lot of the teams around them are struggling because as we come into play tonight, Dan, the Mets only sit 2 games behind Atlanta for that wild card spot. Now that gap is starting to get a little bit bigger between them and the teams in front of them and the Braves, but they're hanging on for dear life to that last wild card spot, and they still have a legitimate shot. You know, they're just going to have to wake up. You know, what do you think about, like, does that give you confidence, the fact that they've crapped out the last 10 games? Like we said, they've lost 7 of 10, but they're still only 2 games back of that final spot. So what do you think about that?
That gives me confidence. I mean, it's a winning streak. It's happened before, and it could happen again. For
Yeah.
Major League Heat. You got to get on a winning streak, and we'll be back in this. Also, the I don't know what to say. That I had to offer today. I had to offer Giroux rum, and the Grimace plushie commanded I go get myself a milkshake at McDonald's. It would perfectly have been a Grimace birthday shake, but McDonald's still hasn't taken advantage using this their advantage of their marketing department in the New York area to bring back the Grimace birthday shake, which I wish they would because I get one today, but I had to. But the Grimace commanded I enjoy myself a milkshake today from McDonald's. So I went to the McDonald's, and by luck, the milkshake machine worked. It worked.
Now that's a yeah.
You know how it is. The milkshake machine sometimes never works. It actually worked. So I feel that is good mojo for the Mets. The fact that
Well,
the milkshake machine worked. So it'll be a nice hot streak for the Mets.
well, let's hope you're right about that, Dan. And if that hot streak is gonna start, it's gonna start tonight. And you know, when you look at it, it's a pitching matchup at least that's in the Mets' favor tonight, going against young Oakland starter Joey Estes, no relation to former Met Sean Estes. Joey Estes is 5-4 with a 4.70 ERA. David Peterson is 6-1, 3.34 ERA. So, you know, on paper, it's in the favor of the Mets tonight. But then again, the Mets' offensive struggles have been making, pretty much every pitcher look like Nolan Ryan for the last 2 weeks. So let's hope they start to wake up again. But, looking at the numbers tonight, as long as the Mets get a good outing from David Peterson, they should be in pretty good shape. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I feel like that's a decent outing, and he'll keep the Mets in it enough to score some runs, wake up the bats. That let's hope that hopefully the like you said, the rum offers Jabu and the milkshake I drunk is giving the Mets some good mojo.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so okay, the uh, when you look at that now, obviously starting tomorrow, they got the finale against Oakland. But then after that game, they still have 6 more games. This is actually the Mets. I think this 9-game homestand is the Mets' longest homestand of the season, which if you think that's pretty crazy, actually. They used to have 10, 12-game homestands with playing every team every year in Major League Baseball now. It looks like long homestands like that are a thing of the past. But so they play the day game, the matinee tomorrow at Citi Field, and then 3 against the Marlins and 3 against one of the best teams in baseball, the Baltimore Orioles, before they head back out west. So, it's really me and you said on Sunday in the Patreon show that they have to go 4-2 minimum on this homestand. So that means you're asking for winning 4 of these last 5 prior to the Orioles series, because the Orioles, obviously that's going to be tough in itself. So I'm talking about the 6 leading up to the Orioles series. So, they're going to have to at least go 4-1 going into that for this to be a relatively successful series, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what they need to do. And it starts now.
Yeah, and the big test too, they could win tonight against Oakland and feel better about themselves, and then they can win tomorrow against Oakland and feel even better about themselves. But the real test is going to be over the weekend against the Miami Marlins, who have given the Mets hell this year. And the Mets are going to have to, at the very least, win 2 out of those 3 games, because, you can't lose 2 out of 3 to let's say no matter what happens in these first 3 games against the A's, you can't lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins, and you can't lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles back to back. That means you're losing 4 out of 6 home games, and pretty much no matter what happens in these next 2 games, it's going to be a crappy homestand if that's the case. So the Mets really have to avoid something like that at all costs.
Yeah, exactly. They need to get this job. They need to get the job done. The strike
Yeah,
first, strike hard, strike fast, no mercy.
that's right, Sensei Bobo. So there, there we go, dropping some Cobra Kai on us. I like it. And the Mets, that's what they have to do. That's what they have to do. The A's did it last night. The A's jumped on Paul Blackburn in the first inning, getting those 3 runs early, and then they didn't look back. So, that's the key. And when we look on the other side of town, on the Bronx, Dan, they did that this year. They struck early this season. I mean, they've struggled, or they did struggle for a good period of time between May and July, but they've picked it back up again. And right now, the New York Yankees have one of the best records in Major League Baseball, 71-50. They're blown out by the White Sox on Monday night, but they came back last night for a big 4-1 victory. This is baseball. You're not going to win every single game. So even though if you're a Yankee fan, you would have loved to see the Yankees sweep this crappy team, the White Sox are going to win games here and there. The key is they won last night, now win again tonight, so you win the series, just like we were saying with the Mets. It's the same thing. But it must have felt even better for Yankee fans last night because Juan Soto was all the offense the Yankees need. They won the game last night 4-1. He drove in all 4 runs. He cranked 3 home runs, and those were his only 3 hits, 3 for 4, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs. So the Yankees are getting everything that you could have possibly wanted out of Juan Soto now. 33 home runs on the season. If Aaron Judge wasn't on the team right now, he'd be a leading MVP candidate in the league. But Judge probably, pretty much has that one on lock. But what do you think about the explosion from Soto last night and the Yankees getting back on the right foot?
They're just doing what they need to do right now. So far, they're on pace to win this series, and they did what they needed to do. They scored when they needed to, and that game they're pitching held up, and it's going to get even tougher down the stretch. And the big question is down the stretch, and I feel like the Yankees, it's going to be even a difficult. It'll be an even more challenge for them if they don't win the division. And I feel they're
Oh,
just at a situation. They're at a situation where they have to win every series, and they can't afford to go on a losing streak because Baltimore is winning at the same pace as them. It's reminding me so much of the Mets in 2002 against Atlanta, how you had two teams on a 100 win pace that could have
22
easily
you're
won the
talking about, right?
division. What? Yeah,
Yeah, 20.
2022.
Yeah.
22.
And
That's what I said. 22. They were just on the same pace of both teams that were having a 100 win pace at the same time, and that's what we're looking at. And I just feel the team that has the better chances is going to be whoever wins the division.
yeah, yeah, it's true, man. And right now the Yankees at 71-49, they sit up on the Baltimore Orioles for first place in the AL East. Actually, the Yankees are 71-50. So uh, those two teams are separated by a half game, so it's going to be coming down to the final weekend or so for the AL East, and it's going head to head is probably going to determine it a lot down the stretch. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And there's a couple of questions I have to ask you now, Dan. So when you're looking at the Yankees lineup lately, they have been leading off um, Alex Verdugo, the former Red Sox player, the former Los Angeles Dodger. So he's been leading off lately for the Red Sox, which I'm not really sure that is a great idea. Um, and okay, there we go. We got Dan back in the fray. So I'm not really sure that that's a great idea. This guy, has had like a 200 on base percentage since May. He's been terrible, Alex Verdugo, of late, and leading him off doesn't make much sense to me. I feel like they have a guy like Anthony Volpe in the lineup who they're batting ninth as kind of like a double leadoff man, and I feel like Volpe would be a much better option. What do you think, Dan?
I kind of think so. I feel like Verdugo might be a middle of the order, maybe batting fifth, maybe sixth. But I just feel like Volpe is more a better leadoff hitter, and I feel they need to make that change soon because it'll bite them in the ass. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Verdugo leading off, and I think fifth and sixth in the lineup probably even too high. I'd put Verdugo more like a seventh or eighth guy. He had a really good April and May, but he's been really bad since then. So I guess it just depends. It's all the manager's feel, but I think Boone is making a bad call leading off Verdugo. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if the Yankees put Volpe up there, which they've made no inclination they're going to do though. But also with that, tonight the Yankees are going to be trying to win the series here on Wednesday night as we record this. They're going to be trying to win the series against the Chicago White Sox, and they're throwing out their number 5 prospect who just came up last week and got knocked around, Will Warren, 0-1 with an 11.17 ERA, making the start tonight against the White Sox, and Davis Martin, who's flipped back and forth between the rotation and the bullpen for the White Sox this year. He's 0-1 with a 3.65 ERA. So two guys that both don't have a win pitching against each other in August. This should be an interesting matchup on itself, right there.
Yeah. I just feel like just for his confidence and I feel like for him to just get to that next level, I feel like Will Warren needs to have a good outing and get the win. I just feel like it's just one of those things that eats up pitchers in the beginning of their career. And
Yeah, a lot like
that's
Christian Scott, right?
yeah, I just feel like that's the step he needs to take. Get that first win, get that good start. That just boosts the morale and just gives you the confidence they can do this. They can get over that hump and hopefully get to where they want to be.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. No doubt about it. The Yankees would love something from Will Warren along the lines of 5 innings, no runs, or 5 innings, 1 run, something like that, and getting the W. They would definitely love something like that from him. But it remains to be seen if he can do that at this level. Uh, let's see what he does against the worst team in baseball right now. So the Yankees will be going with that tonight. Um, Now, my question to you, Dan, is too. We've seen Clay Holmes struggle a lot lately, the Yankees closer. Do you think the Yankees can win a World Series with Clay Holmes on their team as their closer?
That remains to be a big question mark. I feel like that is a real question mark. I feel he can kind of get good. He's kind of had good outings, but it's a real question mark, and that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, man. I mean, Yankee fans are used to the slam door type closers. Uh, you know, Even though they can complain about Aroldis Chapman giving up a couple, the home run to Altuve in the ALCS and a couple of other moments that I'm sure Yankee fans aren't thrilled with. But for the most part, Aroldis Chapman was a slam dunk closer, even in the playoffs. I mean, look what he did with the Cubs in 2016. But Clay Holmes isn't that guy, I think, and Clay Holmes will have his moments in the regular season, but I would not trust Clay Holmes at all in the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like he's not a big game type of closer, and I
Yeah,
feel that's the key. That is just a key to a championship is having a big game closer that can handle that big spot. And it's
yeah,
gonna be
exactly.
and I just feel just to feel and right well who you can handle that because you got that high expectation. You get that pressure all year long in New York, and he doesn't seem to have it.
Especially being the Yankee closer in the playoffs. Is there like more pressure on a person at Yankee Stadium, knowing the history of the team and the greatness that has preceded you wearing those uniforms? And to go out there and stink it up in a playoff game at Yankee Stadium and get booed off the mound. Like, nobody, nobody wants that, obviously. And it's, it's got to be earth shattering for some of these guys. I'm sure Clay Holmes has succeeded at every level he's played at, and he's been the best player on his team most times. But, you come here in the big leagues, and even though he's he was literally an American League All-Star this year. So it's not like he's performed that bad, but it's just funny that me and you have that view of him, and I'm sure a lot of Yankee fans have that view of him, that in a big spot, he ain't no Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, exactly. I feel it's like big shoes to fill. I feel like it's almost reminiscent of the Bulls since Jordan retired.
Yeah, that's true. You'll always be compared to Mariano Rivera now if you're the Yankees closer. And if you're a great Chicago Bull player, you're always going to be compared to Michael Jordan. That's a good point. So that's definitely true. So yeah, the Yankees, in my opinion, if I was the Yankees,
wait a minute, I forgot to say you could add another one to that. You could add the
yeah,
same thing with the quarterback for the New England Patriots. You could say the same thing.
That's true.
For years from now, they're always going to be compared to Tom Brady.
That's very true. You're right about that. And until the Patriots get that monkey off their back and win one without Tom Brady, they're always going to be hearing about that. So you're definitely correct about that. Just like Jet quarterbacks have been hearing about Joe Namath for 50 years. We're still waiting for our next guy. So let's see. Maybe it'll be Aaron Rodgers. Fingers crossed. But yeah, just to wrap up on the Yankees. Now, the Yankees play their next three after they wrap up with the White Sox in Chicago. They play their next three in Detroit. And the Tigers are kind of crappy, 57 and 63 this year, so they're not a complete pushover team, but the Yankees should be able to at least go out there and win the series. And so that's going to be in Detroit this weekend, and then when they come back home, they're going to be playing the Cleveland Guardians, who right now, winning percentage wise, have the best record in baseball. They've pulled ahead of the Phillies. They've pulled ahead of the Yankees. They've pulled ahead of the Baltimore Orioles. So by percentage points, the Cleveland Guardians have the best record in baseball. And isn't that crazy? Who would have thought that, the low budget Cleveland Guardians are the best team in baseball record wise right now? But, what do you think about that, Dan, against these teams? And even the Guardians, the Yankees having to get this done just to keep it rolling, because like you mentioned before, it's going to come down to them and the Orioles all year, so you got to keep pace with them.
Yeah, exactly. They got to take 2 out of 3 from the series, and it's not going to be any easier. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I feel this series against the Guardians, I feel it's going to be a very close series, and the Yankees have to hope they can tough it out.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I'm telling you right now, too, I know the Guardians are having a good year, but look, they are a low-budget team for the most part, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw changes for them in the offseason. I'm telling you right now, if I'm the Yankees, we were just talking about a lockdown closer. Get Emmanuel Clace. Emmanuel Clace has to be the Yankees' next closer, in my opinion. He right now is the best closer in baseball, and the Yankees need to go out and make a concerted effort to get him. That's the guy the Yankees need closing games all time to start a career. The best for closer ERA is Craig Kimbrell, 1.43. But right after that, the second best ERA to start a career for a closer in Major League history is Emmanuel Clace at 1.73. So that guy is the best closer in baseball right now, especially, it was Edwin Diaz 2 years ago, but Diaz is not that same Diaz right now. Although he's been pretty good, but he's not the old lockdown Diaz yet. Clace is locked down, and that guy is just incredible. So, what do you think about that, Dan? I think that's the guy the Yankees should go out and target.
Yeah, definitely. He's the guy they need. They need to target him. They it'll be complete letdown. Like Yankee fans should be really calling for Brian Cashman to be fired if they don't get him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying I don't think he's a free agent, but I think he'll be available via trade because I think he's getting close. So yeah, if I'm the Yankees, I'm all in on that guy. Figure out a way to get him on your team, and yeah, so that's so we're in agreement on that. And yeah, Dan, you know what? Let's keep it rolling along here and switch over to some football for the second half of the show to close things out. Me and you were talking about on our Patreon show the other day when the news broke that the Jets had a little bit of breaking news on Sunday as their newly acquired. He was introduced to Jet fans on April 1st. Yes, that's correct. April Fool's Day. He was introduced to Jet fans, and new defensive end Hassan Reddick has not even taken a snap in practice yet for the Jets and has already requested a trade amid stalling contract talks. So, not a good start to his tenure here. But as I see many Jet fans blaming him and calling him greedy and cliche, this and that, rah rah, Jets, this and that. The way I'm looking at it very measured. Sure, can you say that, Hassan Reddick has been crappy? Yes. Can you say Hassan Reddick has not kept his word? Supposedly. Yeah, but guess what? You knew that he was going to be in a holdout when you acquired his contract back in late March and early April. Like the Jets knew that was going to be the case. What I don't understand is why they're still sitting here. The guys, we pointed this out, but I'll do it again here for the regular show. And I'm sure, diehard Jet fans have heard this ad nauseum. But just for the people that don't know, Hassan Reddick is one of the best defensive ends in football. He, over the last 4 years, has 10 plus sacks every year, including 16 2 years ago when he won Defensive Player of the Year. And he was an All-Pro. This guy is a phenomenal athlete, and he's 29 years old. He's making $14.5 million this year. That would mean that he is ranked in his position 19th in positional salary. Now, you cannot tell me that 18 defensive ends are better than Hassan Reddick. So I understand his frustration. I understand the fact that he wants a new deal and that the Jets, had basically agreed to get him one. And then now the Jets are sitting here saying, well, he hasn't reported to camp, so we're not going to talk to a player that hasn't reported for camp. And that's ridiculous. This whole thing has turned into a big pissing contest between a team that's supposedly all in, or against a player that everybody knew was going to act like this unless he got paid. Which, as greedy or petulant as you might want to call it, or him not keeping his word, whatever you want to say, he doesn't have honor. I heard somebody saying all these things might be true, but guess what? This is a guy that's played in the Super Bowl before. This is a guy that is one of the key defensive players in the NFL. He's a strip sack artist. This is a guy that punches the football loose. This is who you need, playmakers in the playoffs. And for the Jets to sit here and think that he wasn't going to pull this is ridiculous. And then just to not give him the money you traded for him. The Jets could have signed their own guy, Bryce Huff, which I was screaming about on this show to re-sign him. It would have been 3 years, $51 million. So $17 million a year. You would have paid less to your own guy. It would have been the same thing if they would have just paid Jadeveon Clowney a couple of extra bucks and stopped him from going to the Carolina Panthers, who the Jets play this weekend. So it's just ridiculous that the Jets have turned this into a big pissing contest with one of the best defensive players in the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. They really should have been on a negotiating table the moment this trade was made. And time as just GM, and it's just shocking that they didn't understand this, and they should have been willing to do it as soon as they made the trade. And if I were the GM of the Jets, I'd be on the negotiating table now, because it's going to look real horrible if you're in a situation where you have to trade this guy, and you basically made this trade for nothing.
Yeah, it was a third round pick 3 years from now. Who cares about it? You know, the thing, Dan, that I don't understand is, do they want to win the Super Bowl, or do they want to win this negotiation with Hassan Reddick? You know what I mean? Like, what's more important?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust, and they got 2 years. They got a 2 year window.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. And so it's a 2 year window, like you said. I totally agree with that. And a big part of that is going to be Aaron Rodgers, as he has to get back on the field, and coming back from this injury is going to be, it's already impressive that he really doesn't have any restraints at all on him. That everybody was saying that, oh, maybe they're going to put him on the PUP list, maybe they're going to start him slow. Rodgers has played every practice. He has gone out there. The only one that he missed was the one when he went to Egypt, but that was still OTAs. It wasn't even training camp yet. So it's interesting, though, that he came out and said that preseason football isn't real football. I was cracking up when he said that, and suggested that he might not even need to play a preseason game, because a lot of guys like me were thinking that maybe they would play him in the finale against the Giants in the preseason. But it seems like that doesn't seem to be the plan. What do you think about that, Dan?
I have questions. As long as I feel like maybe he could be fine as long as they're getting snaps and he's getting plenty of snaps in practice and really going all in practice. But I feel he needs to get at least some snaps in a preseason game just to get that rust out of his system. Because I feel like it'd be scary seeing him trying to get that rust out of his system right in the beginning of a regular season.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be a little scary, but it seems to be the case. And hey, you know what? As much as it might scare the crap out of me, if Rodgers is comfortable with that and he feels like this is the best route to go, who am I to really argue with him too much? Now the Jets play their next preseason game. They played their first last Saturday at noon. Interesting daytime preseason football, which I didn't mind. So they played that against the Washington Commanders. They won that game 20-17. It was a fairly competitive game, a lot of fun to watch. Now the Jets play their second preseason game on Saturday against the Carolina Panthers. So that'll be real interesting too. They're supposed to have a joint practice on Thursday as well. So we'll have to take a look at that and see how everything goes there. But I'm real interested to see how that game plays out, even though nobody big for the Jets. We'll talk about the Giants in a second. There's a couple of more starters playing in that game for the Giants, so that makes that game a little more interesting. Not too much with the Jets and the Panthers, but one more interesting note on the Jets before we move on from them, Dan. Last year, if you remember, when we were wrapping up training camp and there was all this hype about the Jets and Rodgers, and everybody was just waiting for that first game against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Fortunately, it turned into a nightmare. But aside from that, if you remember, in the midst of everything, wide receiver Corey Davis just retired out of nowhere. And, there was a lot of speculation about personal issues and stuff like that. Or, not necessarily anything bad, just dealing with real life and family stuff and things along those lines. So, hopefully everything worked out with him there. But Corey Davis is back on the scene, apparently trying to resurrect his NFL career. The former Tennessee Titan who signed with the New York Jets, and he was there for a couple of years from about 2019 until last year when he retired out of nowhere. And apparently he got a tryout with the Buffalo Bills. What do you think about that, Dan? You think Corey Davis has a chance of coming back and sticking with a team like the Bills?
that happening.
Hey, Dan, can you repeat that? It sounds like you broke up there first.
I feel like that's maybe 50-50 of him getting in.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's not a bad point. I mean, I guess it is 50-50. It probably feels like even more of a long shot than that. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on Corey Davis and see how he goes there. I was actually kind of hoping that maybe he popped up at Jets camp and he could have been, a little depth signing for the Jets, but he definitely would be higher on the Buffalo Bills list over there, as the Bills don't have their top receiver anymore. So he would definitely be higher on the depth chart. So we'll take a look at that. But on the other side of MetLife, Dan, let's take a look at the Giants before we close things up here. And the Giants right now, as we were talking about on Sunday, on Monday, have been dealing with a slew of injuries in training camp so far this year. It has really been odd how injured the Giants have been to start this season. If you want to take a look at some of the guys that have gone down so far, quarterback Drew Lock had an oblique strain and a hip pointer coming out of that first preseason game. Wide receiver Malik Neighbors injured his ankle, although it looks like reports are it's not as bad as originally thought. Wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton injured his hand. Former Jet and current Giant tight end Lawrence Cager had a lower body injury, along with rookie corner, slot corner, that is, Drew Phillips, with another injury on that, lower body injury, and John Runyon Jr. also suffering an injury. Now, this was all going into this week. Then on Monday, unfortunately for the Giants, rookie running back, who, by the way, paired with Singletary, were supposed to be getting the bulk of the carries from the Giants running backs position this year, where, obviously they have to pick up the slack and with Saquon being gone. So Tyrone Tracy being carted off the field, they're saying it's a high ankle sprain. He's week to week. It's looking like he's probably going to be out about a month, though. So, what do you think with this slew of injuries, Dan? What's going up with all this stuff?
I don't know, but I'm getting scared. I'm getting scared, hoping against hope that the Giants don't get off to a slow start. It's scaring me. And it's going to be a miracle my TV will survive. And please, Giants, do not put me in a situation where already 1 month into the season, I'm counting the days until the start of hockey season.
Yeah, don't you hate when that happens? I had that for quite a few years with the Jets, as I think they went about 5 Septembers in a row without winning a game there. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that. But I don't think it's going to be that bad for the Giants. The Giants will find their wins here and there. It's just unfortunate that they've been buried with these injuries so far. But to cover up a few of these injuries, because their safeties has been hit hard too. The Giants signed former Chargers safety Raheem Lane, who was coming off a torn ACL from last October. They said he basically wouldn't have been able to come off the PUP list until right around now anyway. If you look at his timeline, it's right around the same time that current Jets wide receiver Mike Williams tore his ACL, which is the same thing that Lane did last year. So he's kind of on that same timeline. And, Williams came off the PUP list last week. So they're saying right now Raheem Lane would have been coming off it too. So good timing for the Giants bringing in, a little depth here with all these injuries. And even with all these injuries, it looks like, Coach Daboll has these brass balls he's going to be throwing around, because it definitely is going to be, testing his will to see how long he leaves him in for. Daniel Jones will be starting the next game. Quarterback Daniel Jones has been told he's going to be starting on Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. Against the Houston Texans. And Dan, two parts to this question. A, what do you think about with all these injuries? Is it a smart move to be playing Daniel Jones? And B, how do you feel about the daytime preseason football? I kind of like it.
I kind of like it too, the daytime. I don't mind the daytime if a preseason game falls on the weekend. I just feel it works better if you do the game if you do the game as a day game on the weekend. Just
Yeah, I
like
agree.
consensus if you're doing it on a weekend. And any preseason game is on a week. The weekday maybe you can do it at night, but a weekend you have to do it in the daytime. And
Agreed.
I agree. I agree with that. Also, Daniel Jones. I feel like it's a question mark. Yeah, maybe you can start him, but don't have him play too much. Yeah, maybe one quarter, maybe 1.5 quarter, but that's about it. I feel like
It
just
probably
don't.
won't even be that much. It'll probably be like right now, I would say maybe like 2 series, maybe 3 series. So it'll probably be like 2/3 of a quarter.
Yeah. It's probably the best decision to do that. The other thing I feel like to start the season, Daniel Jones is going to be on a short leash this year.
But the thing is, though, he is to a certain extent. Like I see what you're saying, and I do agree with you. But the thing is, though, the Giants really don't have anybody to go to. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like the Jets were with Zach Wilson last year, where yeah, Zach Wilson sucked, but their backup behind him sucked too. And it's not that Drew Lock sucks. It's just, because Drew Lock is an okay backup quarterback, but it's like, he's not the guy. Just like everybody knew that, even though it was fun to follow for a few weeks, Tommy DeVito, everybody knew Tommy DeVito wasn't the guy. So, the Giants don't really have that next guy up backup quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I just feel it's. I feel like it's been. I feel like we've been spoiled all the years we've had Eli Manning, and it's just been a letdown. And it's just even when I'm seeing at training camp, it's like, man, it's just when I'm seeing we got spoiled with the accuracy Eli had and his ability to be able to make those deep throws, and Daniel Jones doesn't even have that. And I feel that's the key with the quarterback on this team is an ability to make those deep throws, and it's going to be even more challenging the fact that the running game it looks like that might be our weakness is a running game, and I feel you need to have a good running game when you have a quarterback like Daniel Jones.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right, man. You got to have that running game because Daniel Jones, and part of that too is having a good offensive line and having a quarterback like Daniel Jones. You need a good running back and a good offensive line to set the table for him. So the Giants had that a couple of years ago. So we'll see what Brian Daboll can dig up with his guys today. It's just unfortunate that Tyrone got hurt for the Giants, so he's going to be missing a little while. Best wishes to him. Hope he heals up quick.
And I do got to say one thing: I feel if the Giants have a disaster of a year this year, I feel they're going to do everything possible to improve a quarterback.
Oh, I agree. No doubt about it. And if this year does go pretty bad for the Giants, I could even see them trading guys at the trade deadline just to kind of, almost give up a little bit so they get a good draft pick next year and get the guy they're waiting for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be a big question. Is that guy even going to be? Is there going to be a guy like that in the draft? Because it's one thing that
That's
all of
the
a sudden say,
question.
"Oh, you tanked really bad. You tanked really bad. You got a quarterback." The big question is the next draft class? Is there that kind of quarterback in the next draft class? Because that isn't always the case.
No, that's true. That's true, man. So, when if you want a couple of names to keep in mind for next year, let's see. I'm looking at the big board. There is Carson Beck out of Georgia. Actually, right now, I'm looking at a mock draft for next year, and it has the Giants picking fourth. So right now, what this generator is predicting is that it'll be Carolina 1, New England 2, and the Broncos 3. The Giants will be selecting 4, and they have an edge rusher named James Pierce going to the Panthers, an offensive tackle named Will Campbell going to the Patriots, which both those picks make sense, and a cornerback going to the Broncos at 3, which I don't know about that. The Broncos need a quarterback more than they need a cornerback. And then it has in this draft as the number 1 quarterback going in the draft, quarterback from Georgia, Carson Beck, going to the Giants. So I know you don't really know anything about him, but what do you think about that?
I think that might be a fair assessment. If the Giants take that bat, that's what they're gonna do if he's available. If he's available, because these draft predictions can always be wrong. Sometimes we assume something and then all of a sudden it turns out to be another thing. So it's gonna be a whole guessing game. And I forget what's the name of the guy we're talking about.
Carson Beck out of Georgia.
Carson Beck might have to keep.
B-E-C-K.
I might have to keep tabs on Carson Beck during the college football season, because this is probably going to be the big quarterback prospect in the next draft.
He could be. He could be. So very interesting. A little college football talk here on Best Seat in the House, which we don't do that much, but definitely keep your eyes on Carson Beck.
Yep, exactly. When it comes to these prospects that affect the future of our team, it kind of grabs your attention. Am I right?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it, man. And so I think that's just about going to do it for us today. One last thing before we get out of here, Dan, though, is we'd be remiss if we did not bring up that yesterday it was, unfortunately, after a very lackluster offseason so far, the Rangers and Sam Rosen have announced that the legendary broadcaster will be calling it a career after 40 years of calling Ranger games. Man, Dan, as far back as I can remember, I remember seeing Sam Rosen there, and it didn't matter who was sitting next to him, whether it would be Howie Rose or JD or any of these guys that we've seen over the years, obviously leading up to the great Joe Micheletti. And so it has just been a privilege to hear Sam Rosen call the Rangers over the last 40 years. And knowing this is his last year, you're just going to have to soak up every single second, right?
Yeah, and soak up every second. And I just might have to make a big push to attend the last regular season game at the Garden this year. Just to be there, just be able to make sure to be one of the fans that is just giving Sam Rosen a huge round of applause, because it's.
But then you won't be able to hear it.
Well, the good part is I'll have the game recorded on my TVR, of course.
That's true. That's true.
So I'll get to hear what he said, but I just feel like it's just another end of an era of one of the greats that we've known for our whole lives. Calling it a career, and he's going to be missed, and it's going to be tough shoes to fill. And I feel we've been lucky to have such a great hockey broadcaster, and going to be missed, Sam Rosen. And I can tell you, if anyone's listening to this, we would love to have Sam Rosen as a guest on Best Seat in the House podcast. Like, I would love to talk. I would love to be able to talk to Sam Rosen and being able to talk about his career and being able to just give him a big thanks for being able to be a part of the soundtrack of our being able to have the privilege of letting him into our living room. We're watching the Rangers games over the years. We would love to have Sam on our show. Just putting it out there. Anyone that can give us a good lead, we would love to be able to have Sam on our show and give him a thanks in person.
No doubt about it. Shout out to the great and the legendary Sam Rosen. That guy, he's done Giants games over the years, NFL games on Fox. He's done, obviously the Rangers games. And I'm sure there's so many other things that Sam has done that I'm not even aware of. But he's just a guy that is legendary in the New York area. So congratulations to him. Hope the Rangers do everything they can to make this a special season because Sam deserves to go out with a cup. And it'd be a disgrace if the Rangers don't put their best foot forward to give him that, which I don't think they've done this offseason. But we'll get to that on another day, right, Dan?
Hey, I'm glad that the Rangers managed to be able to win the cup the last year that the local sports networks were able to do the cup finals and the teams in the cup finals. Because we were able to have Sam Rosen call the '94 Cup Finals and be able to deliver that memorable call that we all remember lived on in infamy in our head.
It's true. It's true. This one will last a lifetime, Dan. And with that, this show will have to last a lifetime because we're done for the week now. Before we get out of here, Dan, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure, my Twitter, Bobo103NYC, Instagram, Bobo7108BK, same username on Threads. Also YouTube, one word, Daniel Curlin. You can follow me on. You can check out all my Bobo content on YouTube. There'll be whenever I upload stuff on YouTube, Patreon subscribers get 2 weeks early access. So be able to do that. And you also Patreon subscribers also get the access to Bobo tracks I made. I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to be watching. Once I've got around to watching the last Sunday's race, I'll have a track side minute in there for you guys. So definitely a lot of great stuff for you people to subscribe to our Patreon.
No doubt about it, everybody. Just $5 a month. We really appreciate all the support from everybody that has checked out our Patreon and anybody that has supported our show on YouTube as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your time and attention there. We can't thank you enough. So don't forget to check us out on all of our social medias, like on X, we're available, beasted_podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Best Seat in the House Podcast. We're also on Kick and Twitch, which we're actually live now on. So don't forget to check us out there. And finally, obviously, wherever you get your podcast, the audio is available on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else. So thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. For Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast. And we'll catch you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend.
How was